Hello, everyone. It was one of those hot, sunny Florida afternoons when I heard the knock at my door. The warmth of the day had lulled me into a sense of ease, but that sound shattered any illusion of peace. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I only caught a fleeting glimpse of her, a pair of familiar, hateful eyes. Before I could even make sense of it, her thug of a boyfriend shoved past her and stormed into the doorway like a hurricane. I had no time to react. His fist came down like a sledgehammer, crashing into my face with a horrifying crack. I felt the bone in my nose give way under the impact, blood pouring down immediately and clouding my vision before the pain even registered. Another blow followed, this one landing squarely on my ribs, forcing the air from my lungs. I stumbled backward, gasping for breath, but the guy wasn't letting up. His fist smashed into my side again, and I heard the sickening sound of ribs breaking under the sheer force. The agony was immediate and overwhelming, but before I could even process it, a sharp, burning pain exploded in my abdomen. His hit had been so violent that something inside me tore, a rupture deep within. Blood was pooling fast, and my legs felt like they couldn't support me anymore. I collapsed as the room spun around me, the pain radiating through every nerve in my body. He wasn't done, though. The man seemed to enjoy watching me fall apart, each blow crueler than the last. Through the haze of pain, I heard his ragged laughter as I struggled to stay conscious. Another strike landed, a brutal kick to my stomach that sent shockwaves of pain through me. I crumpled to the ground, barely hanging on, convinced I wouldn't survive. The assault was relentless, each strike a calculated attempt to break me. My body screamed in agony, battered beyond recognition. If I hadn't been in decent shape, I doubt I'd have made it this far. The last thing I remember before blacking out was her kicking me while I lay on the floor, her sneer twisted with malice. "You son of a bitch," she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "Did you really think you could just walk away from me? Who the hell do you think you are? I told you I'd make you pay. If you go to the cops, I'll have you killed. Maybe we'll come back tomorrow and finish the job. Think about that." And then, everything went dark. I had spent 20 years married to a monster. My name is Max Brown. The next thing I remember is waking up, my vision blurry and the world around me spinning. A grating beeping sound filled the room, and I realized I was in a hospital. How did I end up here? My mind couldn't piece it together. All I could feel was anger and pain. Her face flashed in my thoughts, that cruel expression burned into my memory. Tubes ran from my nose, throat, and arms, holding me captive in that bed. I wanted to speak, to ask questions, but I was so drained, so unbearably weak. Darkness pulled me under again. 2 days later, I woke to a voice I knew well. "He's awake. Call the doctor." Aaron, my son, was shouting. "Dad, can you hear me? You're going to be okay. I told them you were too tough to die." Aaron's a second-year engineering student at State College. He's sharp, hardworking, and he's always been my rock. He loves me, but he's never understood why I couldn't stay with his mother. He never saw the side of her I had to live with. I didn't have the heart to explain it. To him, she was a good mom, and that was all that mattered. I tried to respond, but my throat felt raw and parched. All I could manage was a weak grunt. Aaron gently gave me a sip of water, the cool liquid easing my dryness just enough for me to whisper, "Aaron?" He leaned closer, and I mustered the strength to say, "Your mother did this to me." "Your mother?" My voice broke and I couldn't go on. Aaron frowned. "Dad, you've been divorced from Mom for over a year. You've got to be mistaken. Sure, she can be tough, but I can't believe she'd go this far. She told me she's moved on. She's with a new guy now. I met him once. Didn't like him, though." He shook his head. "Anyway, get some rest. You've been through hell. The police will come by for your statement when you're feeling better." Aaron thought I was delusional, but I wasn't. I remembered every detail. Not long after I reached the hospital, I died. If Aaron hadn't stopped by my apartment when he did, I wouldn't have made it. I remember hovering above my body as the surgeons worked to bring me back. Their voices echoed in the room. "What happened to him? Did he get hit by a truck?" One of them asked. "No," another replied grimly. He was beaten nearly to death. The machine flatlined, its droning tone filling the air. I watched them scramble, desperate to save me. "Clear!" a doctor shouted, sending jolts into my chest. Suddenly, I felt the pull of life again. My heart started beating, and I was back. A week after surgery, I was ready to tell Aaron everything. I knew he'd have questions, but it was time he learned the truth. "Let me finish first," I said, glancing at Aaron, who sat by my bedside, his expression caught somewhere between concern and confusion. "All right, Dad, I'm listening," he said hesitantly. "But you look different. Your face, your eyes, it's like you're looking right through me. I don't know how to explain it, but it's unsettling." He wasn't wrong. Dying changes a man. It alters something deep inside, something even I couldn't fully explain. "You're old enough to hear this now," I began. "The last 10 years of my marriage were hell. Your mom, she stopped being affectionate, and I never really understood why. The intimacy, the connection we once had, it all just disappeared. She took care of you, kept the house running, but to her, I was nothing more than a paycheck, a status symbol. No matter what I did, nothing changed. I tried everything. Romantic gestures, talking to her, even suggesting counseling. But she refused it all. Any affection she showed me was hollow, like it was something she had to do, not something she wanted to. I lived in that marriage for years without hearing a kind word, without a real hug, without a kiss that meant anything. The rare times she gave into sex, it felt transactional, like she was just checking off a box to keep me quiet. She'd occasionally let me get close, but it was always on her terms, and even then, it felt like she was miles away. There was no love, no passion, nothing. I stayed for you, Aaron. I wanted to make sure you had the stability and love that I wasn't getting. I was there when you needed someone to hold you, to support you, to give you the affection you deserved. Your mom, she didn't think that was important. She never understood the value of emotional support. I couldn't trust her, and now I realize I never should have. If I'd known she was cheating on me, I'd have left years earlier." Aaron's expression darkened, but he stayed quiet, letting me continue. "I didn't want to be one of those dads who just walks away. You needed me, and that kept me going. But when you went off to college, I couldn't pretend anymore. I confronted her. I told her it was over. Brittany, I told her, you don't love me. If you ever did, it's been gone for a long time. I see it now. The way you've been pulling away, the excuses, the lies. I can't do this anymore. My love for you has been dying for years, and I've finally realized there are women out there who'd appreciate a man like me. But the last straw was seeing you for what you really are." I laid it all out for her, Aaron. I told her I'd seen the truth, caught her cheating, saw her lies for what they were. "We'll sell the house," I told her. "We'll split the assets down the middle. But I'm done taking care of you. This is over." She tried to play innocent, of course. "Max, what are you talking about?" she cooed, all sweet and sugary. "I haven't done anything wrong. Sure, I've neglected you, but I'll do better. Think about Aaron. What will this do to him?" She even tried to seduce me. "Come here, honey," she said, putting on that fake, innocent act. "Let me make it up to you. It was just one time. It didn't mean anything. I love you." But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I'd seen her with my own eyes, Aaron. I saw her at that club, grinding on some guy like she didn't have a husband at home. I saw her walk into his apartment and leave hours later, looking like, well, like she'd been doing exactly what I suspected. I told her, "You've been cheating on me for years, Brittany, haven't you? Maybe even since the beginning. You're a fraud, a manipulative, self-centered fraud. And I'm done." She tried to argue, to plead, even cried and begged me to reconsider. "I love you," she whimpered. "I need you. I can't live without you." But I didn't buy it. Not this time. I handed her a manila envelope, the private investigator's report. "If your lips are moving, you're lying," I told her. "This proves everything I already know. You've been seeing this guy for months, and God knows how many others before him. You've been pretending to be my wife, but that's over now. I'm done wasting my time on you." I told her I'd be fair with the divorce, but I wasn't going to let her drag me through the mud. "Don't fight me on this," I said. Because if you do, I'll make sure everyone in your little high society circle sees what's in that envelope." That's when her mask dropped, Erin. Her face turned cold, and she snarled at me, "You bastard. It took you long enough to grow a backbone, didn't it? If you think you can just walk away, I'll make you pay." She thought she could scare me into staying, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of her, not of her threats, not of anything. That's the day I walked away, for good. "You think you can threaten me, Max?" she said with a smirk. "Forget all this madness. Calm down and let's just have sex. You'll feel better." I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. Even now, she didn't understand who I had become. "Are you serious?" I said, my voice cold and sharp. "You think I'd ever touch you again? It's over, Brittany. For good. I don't want to see you, talk to you, or even think about you ever again." I walked out that night, slamming the door on her and our shattered marriage, leaving her behind forever. Over a year later, when I opened my door, Alan was there. He rushed in, and before I could react, he launched his attack. He didn't just hit me. He made it personal. Every punch, every blow, was deliberate, meant to maximize pain. Your mother stood there the whole time, watching with satisfaction. She wanted me broken. Alan wanted me dead. "Did you go to the police?" Aaron asked, his voice heavy with concern. "Did you tell them what happened?" "No, and neither will you," I replied, my tone flat and devoid of emotion. "But why, Dad? He almost killed you. They can't just get away with this." I'm ashamed of her. How could she think she'd get away with hurting you like that?" "One day, you can ask her yourself," I said. "For now, I want her wondering what I'll do next. She's probably scrambling to find someone to protect her. Let her stew in that fear." "You said they almost killed you?" Aaron's voice cracked. "They did kill me, son," I said, my eyes distant. "I died on the operating table. The doctors brought me back. But I'll deal with them both in my own way, in my own time." Aaron swallowed hard. I don't know what I'd do without you, Dad. But you're not. You're not going to hurt her, are you?" I could see the conflict in his eyes. He still loved his mother, despite everything. "No physical harm will come to her by my hand," I promised. "But I won't rest until justice is served. They took something from me, Aaron, and I'm going to get it back." "What did they take?" "My pride, son. My pride." Aaron looked uneasy. "I don't know what you're planning, but Alan's dangerous. He's huge, at least 240 pounds. Dad, you're a good man. Don't stoop to his level. Let the police handle it." "Don't worry about me," I said, forcing a small smile. "It's better if you don't know the details. The man you knew as a nice guy, he didn't make it off that operating table. Alan and your mother are the ones who should be afraid now." Once I was strong enough, I began preparing. I acquired what I needed: a collapsible baton and a stun gun. The clerk explained how the stun gun worked. A quick jolt could cause pain and muscle spasms. A longer shock, over 3 seconds, could knock someone out cold. Alan was first. I waited outside his condo, watching as he approached his car. As he turned, I struck. The stun gun's jolt lasted 4 seconds, more than enough to drop him. When he regained consciousness, he was cuffed and tied in the back of my car. A chloroform-soaked cloth ensured he stayed unconscious until we reached the Everglades. By the time he woke up again, he was tied to a tree, his hands bound above him. The dim light of the swamp flickered across his confused face as I stepped closer. "Recognize me now, Alan?" I asked, my voice low and steady. He squinted, his eyes widening as realization set in. "You think this scares me?" he sneered. "Let me go, and I might let you walk away." I chuckled, opening the baton with a click. "You're in no position to make threats. You nearly killed me, Alan. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? Was she worth your life? Because that's what it's going to cost you." I swung the baton, shattering his right kneecap. He screamed, his body jerking against the ropes. I didn't stop there. The other kneecap followed, the sound of breaking bone echoing in the still night. "You're a monster," he gasped, his voice weak. "And what are you, Alan?" I countered. "You've hurt people for years, but now it's your turn." Behind him, quicksand waited. "I could leave you here for the alligators," I said, my voice calm. But I have a more civilized approach. I cut him loose, letting him collapse onto his car. With one last shove, I sent the vehicle rolling toward the quicksand. "You bastard!" he yelled, clawing at the sinking car. "I've got better things to do," I said, turning my back as his screams faded into the night. When I returned to the house, Brittany hadn't even changed the locks. I sat in the dark, waiting. When she walked in and turned on the light, she froze. "Hello, Brittany," I said, my tone casual. "What are you doing here? Get out. If Alan finds you, he'll kill you." I smirked. "I don't think Alan will be hurting anyone anymore. Sit down. We need to talk." She tried to run, but I was faster. A quick jolt from the stun gun sent her crumpling into a chair. "You're going to sit there and listen," I said. "Try to move, and you'll regret it." "You wouldn't," she stammered. I leaned closer. "I'm not the man you married, Brittany. Believe me when I tell you, Brittany, I've become a ruthless, cold-hearted man," I said, my voice calm but chilling. "Alan knows exactly what I mean." She tilted her head, trying to mask her fear with sarcasm. "I think I like you better this way." "So, what did you do?" "You're a disturbed woman," I replied flatly. "Let's just say I've dealt with some unfinished business." She swallowed hard, her bravado faltering. "All right, I'll play along." "What do you want?" she asked, her tone a shaky mix of fear and defiance. "Why, Brittany," I began, leaning back in my chair. "I was fair to you in the divorce, wasn't I? I didn't even file for adultery, though I had more than enough proof. I could have destroyed you, but I didn't. So why? Why did you feel the need to hurt me?" Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape that wasn't there. "The more I thought about the divorce, the angrier I got," she admitted. "I wanted you to suffer for leaving me. I always loved you, Max. But when you rejected me, I couldn't handle it. I needed you to understand how much it hurt. And Alan? How did he fit into all this?" I pressed. "I met him at a bar," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I told him you'd abused me during our marriage, that I wanted revenge. He was perfect for the job. He enjoys hurting people. I thought he'd scare you, maybe rough you up a little. But Alan had his own agenda." Her words only fueled my anger. "And the kick you gave me? Was that part of your plan?" Her lips quivered. "Alan was going to kill you, Max. It was the only thing I could think of to stop him." I shook my head, my voice sharp with disbelief. "Some of that might be true, but don't think I've forgotten the look on your face when you did it. You enjoyed hurting me, Brittany. There was venom in your voice and satisfaction in your eyes. Let me make one thing clear. The only reason you're still alive is because I promised Aaron I wouldn't kill you." I moved closer, grabbing a handful of her hair and pulling just hard enough to make her wince. She shrank back, fear written all over her face. I held the stun gun close, firing it a few times to make my point. Click. The pin I'd been fiddling with played back her confession, her words echoing in the room. Her eyes widened in shock as she realized what had just happened. "My lawyer tells me this confession, along with the evidence of my injuries, should be enough to press charges for aggravated assault, kidnapping, attempted murder, and depraved indifference," I said coolly. "Some of those charges will stick. You're going to jail, Brittany." Turning off the recorder, I leaned in close. "I promised my son I wouldn't kill you, but make no mistake. I won't let you live in peace. Every day, you'll beg for death, but I'll make sure you stay alive to feel every ounce of regret. It's time to run, Brittany." I let her go and walked away, leaving her trembling in her chair. Not long after, Brittany disappeared. She and Alan became fugitives, constantly on the run. I didn't hear much about them after that, but I know they'll never escape the consequences of their actions. For Brittany, every step, every shadow became a reminder of the devil I'd promised was after her. She couldn't shake my words. Paranoia consumed her, driving her to the edge. At first, it was subtle. Restless nights, an inability to eat, glancing nervously over her shoulder. But it didn't take long for the fear to take over completely. She started seeing shadows that seemed to follow her, hearing whispers that weren't there. Her mind twisted every sound and sight into proof that someone was hunting her. One night, while running through the streets, She finally snapped. She screamed, her voice cracking as she cried out about a man following her, a devil haunting her every move. "He's here!" she shrieked, wild-eyed and incoherent. "The devil! He's coming for me!" Bystanders stared, unsure whether to intervene or keep their distance. Some called the police, alarmed by her frantic behavior. When the officers arrived, they surrounded her, speaking gently, trying to calm her down. But Brittany couldn't be reasoned with. She fought them, thrashing and screaming about the devil I'd set after her. Her words, though chilling, only confirmed what the officers suspected. She was in a state of severe mental distress. They restrained her and brought her to a mental institution for evaluation. Within the white walls of that facility, Brittany's life unraveled further. The devil she feared became her constant companion, a figment of her shattered mind. No amount of therapy or medication could quiet the torment she had brought upon herself. She was trapped, haunted by the consequences of her choices, her life reduced to a shell of what it had been. The devil I had promised her wasn't a man. It was her guilt, her fear, and the inescapable truth of her actions. And now, it was the only thing she had left. Subscribe so you don't miss new stories on the channel. Bye.